Hey, She Slayers, and welcome to another episode of She Slays Today podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunswick. Today we have really, really good interview for you. Dr. Tom Waller is on, and I live under a rock, right? Like the people, I don't know how I don't know people, but I just discovered Tom. Am I allowed to say I discovered him? Like I didn't know about him. That's what I mean. He had a very successful life prior to my discovery a couple weeks ago. But through what was it? The Millennial Chiro Summit by Elise Rigney. I was like trying to get the words in the right order. That already happened. You can't do that. Maybe she'll do it again next year. But she had this crazy lineup of people. And I'm like, damn, and so some of these people, I was like, who are these people? And I went like down the rabbit hole. And I was like, this man is so engaging and certain. And he's just got like a voice for podcasting and radio. And so it's great episode. But let's see, what do we have? Okay. So if you're listening to this, which you are, because you're listening to it, it means that my birthday has already happened. I'm not a birthday month person. I am more like a birthday week person. Actually, I don't know if I can say I'm not a birthday month. So poor Kirby this year, I was like, you know what? Why don't we buy a sauna this year in like November, and we'll just like skip birthday presents and anniversary presents, both my birthday and anniversary in September, and Christmas. We'll just do like a sauna. And he's like, that sounds great. Okay, so from that decision point, I convinced him that we should go to Austin City Limits. So we're doing that. I like squeezed that in. I justified a $200 like chemical peel, a $450 tattoo, a massage. There was another thing in there that was like, oops, that's good. Oh, my extensions were due, so another few $100. So in my birthday month where I was like, no gifts. Yep, I got myself some gifts, that's for sure. Now, what are you gonna do? I'm a high maintenance biatch who just needs things to be happy, I guess. I don't know. All right. Sad news. You're gonna be so bummed out when I tell you this, but we are closing the Patreon. Okay, so if you are currently a Patreon member, you still have, so this is like end of September, beginning of November as you're listening. The people who are currently members still get 3 more months of like mini episodes is what they got. But we're not allowing any more new members in. That's because after December, all of Patreon is actually going to be closing down. So we have a couple more marketing topics that we're going to be talking about and a couple more business practice topics that we're going to be talking about through the end of December, but then it's all going away. Nobody's getting anything. After that, we're going to have some other different ways that startups can work with us, or some mini marketing course that's coming down the pipeline. But yeah, sad news if you were like, oh yeah, I should really get around to that Patreon thing. You lost your opportunity. I'm so sorry. I will talk in a different episode why we're shifting away from Patreon and into a different way to work with people. But now's not the time because I want to get to this episode because it's so good. Okay, let's talk about Tom. So, Dr. Tom is one of Europe's most exciting and dynamic chiropractors with a purpose to inspire, educate, and serve. He does this through his busy full-time practice as well as through his other businesses as a sought-after entrepreneur. He is the co-host of the Aligned podcast and founder of Adjusting Skills and Certainty, a coach and mentor to a variety of professionals looking to better themselves and their business. A regular guest expert on radio, an international and TEDx speaker, and property investor, it is his mission to inspire over 1 billion people to chiropractic care. Well, that's a pretty impressive mission. Over 1 billion, not 1 million, 1 billion. Do we think he's keeping track? And where is he at? I didn't ask that question because I would love to know if that's just like a statement or if he's like keeping track. There's no way he can keep track. You can't keep track because like, what's he going to do? Like follow up with me. Like, I need to know how many people listen to that episode so I could check. So, okay. My brain answered the question. It's really funny. There's this moment towards the end of our interview, and I ask him a really ballsy question. I don't want to say it's a ballsy, it's a tough question. It's kind of a jerky question as a host to ask a guest because it's a minefield of an answer. And I laughed and he's like, I did not see, he goes, I didn't see this episode going this direction. And I'm like, I know. I asked my guest, like, what would you like to talk about? And then I just completely throw it out the window and we talk about what I want to talk about. Apparently, I'm the worst. So let's pray. And I'm so excited for you to listen to this episode. Take a breath. Connect with your heart. Ground yourself in what you're doing, whether it's your feet on this earth, your butt in this chair. Thank you, God, so much for the opportunity to have hard conversations about hard topics. I truly believe that people like Tom will absolutely bring 1 billion people to chiropractic care. I believe in that mission, he will awaken chiropractors to chiropractic care. I believe that people who are given really hard things to do in life, you just light this fire under them, and it's palpable. You can like tell when you're talking these people when they're so in alignment with the mission that you've given them. And so everyone listening, please, God, continue to move in them and work with them and help them find their own mission. And remember, it may not be 1 billion people. It might be your family. It might be raising children in this moment. It could be something not as sexy as 1 billion people. But just remember, when you're in alignment, people, you give off this vibration and people want to be around it and people are inspired by you. They may be inspired to be a better parent when they are with their kids, be a better spouse when they're with their spouse, pick up a meditation practice, like whatever that is, just know, like continue to look for that in your life and your mission. In your name we pray. Amen. Okay, without further ado, here is my conversation with Dr. Tom Waller. Enjoy. I stalked you. And so like, yes, your studio setup is very nice. It's very professional. So you kind of like...
I can take no credit for that.
But twice a week, that's a lot.
Well, we record once a week. We do 2 shows. And yeah, we enjoy it. We're good.
But yeah, the need for just more and more and more content. Like sometimes I feel like can be
it's I felt that with the first show because it's like I'm running out of things to say, but that's where guests are helpful. It kind of breaks that up.
Yeah.
But it's the same with chiropractic. Like this is what
Oh yeah.
It's the mark of a great leader is not about coming up with new things all the time. It's about being able to say great things over and over and over again. And I think that's the same with our message with chiropractic. And it's true with when we have a philosophy or something we want to say, there is a limit to it because that's what we believe, but it's saying the same thing, but maybe just slightly different creative ways. And you'll fall on the right ears at the right time.
Oh yeah. I mean, table talk is, I have my days where I can like tell like, yeah, look at you go. Look at you like educating on the nerve. And then there are days where I'm just like, how was your weekend? And like, I can tell, like, I don't want, no offense to my patients, but I don't actually care about their weekend either. I'm just being lazy and it's tough, but yeah.
Whereabouts are you? Where are you?
I am in very small town, northern Wisconsin. So
where's Wisconsin?
Okay. Do you know where Minneapolis is?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm 2 hours northeast of that. I'm like 2 hours south of Canada. So
yeah.
I say about a little Canadian.
Oh, you do sound a little Canadian actually. When you say about,
there's a little down. Like I think us northern Wisconsiners say some weird stuff, but I don't know. It's not as cute of an accent.
Are you going to ChiroFest next week?
Nope.
I'm out there. I'm speaking. It's up.
I saw that.
Yeah, northeast, isn't it? Yeah.
That's not a short flight for you.
No. I tell you, my favorite place to work in the world is on a plane. I love it. I love the creativity. I love the like, no one disturb me. I'm here. I love it. I love it. So I'm looking
I
forward to 10 hours of just
you have a baby. You is
yeah,
just one baby?
one baby, 9 weeks.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So yeah, alone travel is probably really nice now. I don't get to do much alone travel.
Yeah,
But honestly, most of the time when I am, I get upgraded to Delta Comfort or first class and they're
yeah.
like, "Would you like something to drink?" And I'm like, "I do. I was going to drink water, but I'll take that free champagne." So I get a lot
Yeah.
done in the lounge and then by the time I'm on the plane, I'm like, I can watch a movie, but yeah. So discipline is a tough one. But you going down the rabbit hole of your Instagram, you seem extremely disciplined. Have you
Yeah, I'd
always
say that's
been
my
that way?
uh, yes,
It's a long
in a
pause.
rebellious way, yeah. Yes, in a rebellious way, yeah.
Okay,
So
well,
discipline, people think discipline straight-laced, yeah, and I think back and I go, "I've always been disciplined." Yes, I've always been disciplined, but not with the same productivity outcome as now.
so do you feel like you were putting more effort in to that discipline than you are now and getting less
100%,
results? Is that what you're
100%, yeah,
saying?
yeah, 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 100%, yeah.
Okay.
More trying to be something else, I think probably at the start, and then now it's just it's me.
Was that you
This is
earlier?
who
Are
I
we
am.
talking like you earlier in your career or like you in high school?
Both.
Both.
Yeah, yeah, early in career, yeah, yeah.
So earlier in your career, what were you putting so much effort and discipline into trying to be?
Trying to be the doctor, like, it was like Jekyll and Hyde, like,
Okay.
here's the doctor who turns up today and looks after you, and then here's the dickhead on the weekend. Like,
Mm.
that's essentially what it was. And then I think we all do that. I think we all do. I think a lot of chiropractors are very, very guilty of being one thing here and another thing there, and that's something I really work hard to help chiropractors with because it's a glaring incongruency that is so rife within the world, but it's rife within our profession. It shouldn't be. But I would say, yeah, it's this kid who's trying to figure himself out, and that kid could be 30, 40, 50 years old. And then this person trying to be a professional, and actually somewhere in the middle is the person that they're meant to be. And they just need to take the masks off and show up as themselves every day.
So being authentic, like just being
Yeah.
who you, but that's hard when you're 24. Like I graduated
You
chiropractic
don't know
school
who
at
you are when you're
24.
24. Like,
Yeah.
you don't know. You can be authentic, but you're still working yourself out.
Hmm.
You're
But
still
we've got
working yourself out.
chiropractors graduating at
Oh, yeah, yeah, I
24.
graduated at that age. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
And that's
like so what would authentic Tom have looked like back then if you were because I completely agree. I did you associate at all or did you start up
yeah, I
right
did
away?
for a while, yeah.
Okay.
And I think that my answer would be to associate or, mentor, and I don't think an authentic Tom would ever have existed at 24.
So I moving to a really small town didn't have I mean, I think back though, oh my gosh, these bunch of idiots. So town of like 8,500 and 10 it was my husband's hometown. We moved here because my hometown, which was 3 hours away, had plenty of female pediatric chiropractors, nervous system based chiropractors, like, and it's not that I like didn't want to have competition, but like I looked at this town that really just had a bunch of old school, come when it hurts, male 40s to 60s. And I'm like, well, this is a budding opportunity over here. So we went there, and I didn't want to start my own practice, which is funny because, like, God absolutely had to have been protecting, just being like, girl, you need to. You're just, you air quotes here, know it all. You need to like unlearn, otherwise, I would have been just a little bit of like, I could do it better. I could do it better until I learned how hard it was. But I approached all of them and I was like, they could have given me the worst associate contract ever. And I would have been like, sure, 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 sure. And they were all just afraid, I
Yeah.
think, of this new energy and like what they were going to do with it. I'm like, all right, well, shoot. I guess I have to start a practice. And then I buried them. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But so I was 24. Like, and newly 24. I turned 24 in September, graduated in December. And I uh, I didn't feel like I had any other choice but to be the pretend doctor.
Mm. Yeah, and I think you do it. I think you do at that age. You do like, but that's part of figuring yourself out.
Mhm.
It's funny though, isn't it? Because the profession over here in the UK, when I was graduating, most people who were studying were second career people. Most of them hadn't gone straight from school to chiropractic. They'd gone through another career, found chiropractic, and then become a chiropractor. They had that life experience. It's a very different game now. It's really interesting taking on associates and just looking for the quality in there is it's tough, but yeah, there's some element of vulnerability that's needed. But then when you're trying to lead someone with their care, they're not looking for you to be vulnerable. They're looking for you to be certain. So it's difficult. It's really difficult.
Mhm. Yeah, and like your I mean, just down to the most microscopic aspect of being a chiropractor, you aren't certain. Like I remember, I the school I went to, God bless their hearts. Was not a I had some
Likewise.
learning to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And but they boasted like we had some of the highest numbers of adjusting required for graduation. And I think it was like 250. Like, so even down to the most microscopic level of being a chiropractor of like getting a thoracic adjustment to do what you want it to do. There was this moment where I'm like, oh God, Betty, I hope this works.
Yeah.
Like, and so you're like, all right, you need me to be certain. And I am not certain because the only thing that really gives that certainty and trust that I can be authentic and that is acceptable is time. And so, really, it's just figuring out what's the fastest way to short circuit that of like, you're going to be uncertain. You're going to have to pretend to be uncertain, or you're going to have to pretend to be certain, and it's just like short circuiting that for them. So I'm assuming you've had a lot of associates.
Not a lot, but we've had a few, and I more coaching people than associates. But it's funny as you talk there. I'm thinking like you said certainty and then uncertain, and I think to be a really great chiropractor, you have to be certain in the uncertain because chiropractic's like Uber. Like we own a philosophy, a way of working with people, but we don't actually do anything because the only person who gets the person well in front of you is themselves. So when we come out of college and we're educated and we're trying to be this doctor and we're saying we can fix people, it's not true.
Mm.
All we can do is put a force, and of that being a universal force, which is destructive by nature, into a human body, and then that human body takes that process constructively to heal itself. So until a chiropractor really gets their head around that and can trust the process, they can't really be authentic with what they're doing. So we try and become really certain in our adjustment, and it's going to go every time, and I'm going to make this cavitate, and
I'm going to fix them.
it's the
Mhm.
wrong angle. And there's a huge thing in chiropractic now about like becoming the best adjuster and making this thing go.
Yeah.
And like, let's do two occiputs on this person instead of one. I'm like, well, that's how you fuck up the mouth of God. Like, come on. So I think the certainty needs to come in understanding what we're doing. A deeper level of that is really the certainty and understanding who you are. And I think working on that first, figuring out who you are, how you show up. Are you being who you're meant to be? Are you looking in the mirror every morning being proud of who's looking back at you? And when you own that, then you have the right to be a leader. And a leader is someone who takes care of somebody and leads by example. So there's a lot to unpack in there, but I think chiropractic needs a kick up the arse. I think
Mhm.
profession needs a realization. Like if you're talking about true chiropractic and the essence of chiropractic is a philosophy, science, and art of things natural, that's chiropractic. So if you're not living a philosophy, science, and art of things natural kind of life, then how can you possibly be a leader, a teacher, a doctor in the profession?
Ooh,
So we have
that's
to start with
hard.
ourselves at home. It's hard
Okay.
to hear, but it's true. It's hard, like you say you say I'm a disciplined man, but it's through a trial of fire, and I touched the void with it, and we can get into that story. But if we're looking at a world now that is really coming to a point where we either go under or we come above, with the way that we are being controlled, mandated, the way that AI may take over, like if if there is one profession that can actually oppose that, it is a profession that has a philosophy, science, and art of things natural. I happen to know a profession that has a philosophy, science, and art of things natural, and it's called chiropractic. And you can there's only one way to lead people. There's only one way to lead your community, and true leadership comes from setting the example.
A lot of chiropractors would say I didn't sign up for that. And so, like, I feel, I mean, especially where I'm located, I'm very close to my alma mater. And you would think I have no problem finding principled associates, but I find a lot of physical therapists. And and they would go like, that's not my chiropractic. I didn't sign up for that. That's not my responsibility. And I don't know what to say to that because sometimes the burden is really heavy. I am a principled chiropractor. Well, I don't know. I don't like saying that because then it's like it makes it feel like the people who I just called physical therapists are not principled. And I'm sure they have their own principles,
Yeah.
like whatever. So but I go like that I went into this to like help colic and help avoid C-sections. And now, so now in addition, because like I became, I really was drawn to, I was like, before chiropractic school, I was like, I'm going to be an OB. No, I'm going to be a pediatrician. No, I'm going to be an OB. And then kind of had that moment where someone explained chiropractic and I was like, oh shit, I can help both. And so really went into that prenatal pediatric chiropractic world. And I mean, I love seeing all families and stuff like that. But I knew really early on, oh man, I better have a really good birth. Like of course, no woman wants to have a not good birth, but I was like, ooh, I better walk the walk because I was still, and I had babies very early, so still like discovering myself and going like, oh shoot, okay, if chiropractic works, I better have a great birth. And like, thank God I got great hips and great genetics and did as many things that were in my control to the best that I could. And I did have great birth. And then I was like, oh, better breastfeed as long as possible. And like, better do that because and your kid can't have colic because if chiropractic works, you can't have colic. And so I was already carrying a lot of that like weight. I was going to say burden, but not burden. It was just more that like stress that like society's going to judge chiropractic's not efficiency, but like, and not worth, but like whether chiropractic works or not based on what they see me being an example of. So, like, if
Mhm.
I am a healthy mom, I did the thing, look at my kids, they've never had a shot or Tylenol. Like, where's my Girl Scout badge for that? And now it's like, oh shit, now I also have to wake up at 5 a.m. and do CrossFit and like eat organ meats. And like, I, I didn't sign up for all of that, Tom. Like, can I just have a bit?
You can, but it's choosing who you lead, and that's who you're leading. It's funny, like you say people judges on that, but chiropractic talks about limitations of matter. So chiropractic can't help every woman have a natural birth, because there will be some women who have limitations of matter,
Mhm.
which will affect how the birth happens. But if you understand that entity of chiropractic, if you really understand that, you can still sit there in your conviction and go, you know, this person may need intervention, but chiropractic is still going to help them function at their best. And chiropractic works with the natural laws of the world. And where medicine's actually quite good is in that younger years and saving lives that in the natural world, because of the limitations of matter, would have been lost.
Mhm.
So I think we can stand strong in our convictions, and I think the real hard burden that we face as chiropractors is if we choose to say that we can help and save everyone. One of the best talks I ever gave, and I really enjoyed it. I went to deliver a talk to a funeral directors. So this huge funeral directors in our county, and all the bosses who ran that place were there. And I opened the talk by saying, my job is to put you out of business. Pretty difficult to put a funeral director out of business because everyone dies sometime.
Mhm.
But we sometimes take this crusade of chiropractic further than is true. But if we really own the essence that if your body is working right, it will look after itself. But there are limitations of matter, and
You
that's what we work with.
you have such a peace with uncertainty.
Hmm.
And in my stalking, I saw that your favorite book is The Obstacle is the Way.
Hmm.
So, what found you first? Stoic philosophy? Because what I heard is that you did not learn chiropractic principles in chiropractic school.
Far from it. Quite the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. So what found you first? Stoic philosophy or chiropractic philosophy?
Chiropractic philosophy.
Okay. How did
Yeah.
you what did you have to do? What was the work look like? What did that look like for you? Where were you in practice?
I graduated and I was like the puppet on a string. I was head of the student board and stuff. Like I was that dick who like was the puppet on the string for the teachers. And I graduated, I went to work in the Carrick office and like all this science, and I'm not a smart guy. And all this science is being touted and people are, but then we're talking about actually chiropractic in the UK is back pain and neck pain, but then we're getting these amazing results. I'm like, what? This is complete dichotomy going on. So I just went down the rabbit hole of watching YouTube, listening to old recordings, and that just I suppose it made sense. I think that's what most chiropractors say when they figure out the philosophy, when they really figure it out, it just makes sense. So I just found my way down that rabbit hole and then ended up chasing the rabbit. And now it's who I am. It's probably who I've always been, but I needed some way to quantify that.
Why do you think that we have really gotten so far away from teaching the principles in school? Because obviously there are some schools that are great, but how have we gotten to this place? Do you think it's insurance has dictated it? Like,
I
but
think that would be the start. I think that, you know, everyone quotes the Mercedes 80s as being somewhere where it would have started it. There are a lot of chiropractors who work very soundly who still use insurance. A couple of the clients that I coach in the States use insurance a lot, but still a very sound philosophy. Ego, I would say, is it. Ego.
ego of who?
The people who sit on the
Mm.
boards. The people who sit on the boards. Like in the UK, it's probably similar over there, but the same people sit at the top of the institutions who then go and run the schools, who then go on to the governing body. Just this incestuous circulation of the same people at the top. Uh, just ego and educated mind.
So explain more what you mean by the ego. So why do you feel that the ego is keeping them in this musculoskeletal realm
Because they want
versus
to be recognized, they want to be liked, they want to be, and I think not just them. I
want to
think
be
the ego,
liked?
the the the
Mhm,
ego is a huge limiter on everybody's life. Like whatever you're trying to do, like if you want to
mhm,
do something great, you have to drop the ego, because the ego is always looking for recognition. And there's nothing wrong with recognition. I love recognition, but it's always looking for somebody else's form of validation,
mhm.
and therefore you bend what you do to meet that validation. And I think people, you know, it's just got in this way that they want to be part of the medical profession, respected in the community, and and the way to do that is to become part of that institution. And like you say, people, you know, it's not what I signed up for, but chiropractic's like rugby. Like there is a pitch and there are a set of rules. And if you choose to go on the pitch and play the rules, you're playing chiropractic. Now you could be a wing forward, you could be a center, you could be a lock, you could be a prop. In essence, you could practice chiropractic within this field and under these rules, but you could be a pediatric chiropractor, a sports chiropractor, take care of families. Like you can practice all those different positions within the same rules. But as soon as you start saying, well, we could bring a little bit of medication here, or we're going to treat symptoms, then actually maybe you're standing over on the soccer pitch instead. And actually you're playing a different game. So that's cool. I don't like soccer. You can go and play that if you want, but we're playing rugby over here. Just choose which pitch you want to be on, and then you can thrive. You could be the best soccer player in the world, but it's not rugby. You could be the best physical therapist in the world, but it's not chiropractic. And I think that we just have to be certain with that. And I think we're just slowly letting that go.
So if you were talking to a chiropractor who was playing physical therapy, they're playing soccer, you're playing rugby. Like, what you're saying to them is like, don't call what you're doing chiropractic.
No,
Just
it
admit
depends
that
where
it's
it
physical
depends where that
therapy.
person it depends where that person is.
Hmm.
You know, if they're new and they don't know, like Socratically ask them what they're doing. You know, what are you doing? Why is that getting the result that you think? Why are you seeing change? Why are you choosing to do that? It's I think this is the difference between the two professions, between true chiropractic and allopathy is the difference between asking the question what and why. We ask ourselves what is going on. We're going to come to some kind of diagnosis, and then we're going to try some treatment to help that. If we ask why this is going on, we start to look at the human body and start to allow it to work as it should do. So I would, if that person was there, I'd Socratically speak to them. If that person is really in their ways and that's what they want to do, I'd just say, come on, go and play on the other pitch. Maybe not with those words. Hmm.
So you had said, you talked about ego, the need to want to be like, and like, I completely agree with that. Chiropractic, I've only been in it since 2007. So I've only gotten to see this limited part. It's not like I was in 7th grade and like observing what the chiropractic profession was doing. But it does seem like there's a big chip on the shoulder and I don't know if it's because, I don't know what philosophy this is, but like basically it's the principle that you give an employee a benefit and then you take it away and you're in a much worse situation than if they would have never had it, right? Like just the idea, you give a kid a toy and take it away, they're much more pissed than if you never gave them that. And so I'm curious if the Mercedes 80s, where chiropractors got to feel, whether consciously or subconsciously, they realized they were experiencing this, they got to feel validated. Insurance is giving me money and recognizing that like I did hard work and I am worth something. And then insurance went, nah, we're gonna make this a lot harder. And we still have just like you said, we still have those chiropractors that got to be a part of those 80s and early 90s. Those are the people on the boards right now. And so it would make sense that their egos, their chip on the shoulder is trying to get back to this place that you and well, when did you graduate? You look young, but maybe
10.
Oh, okay. See, yeah. So like the people who are running those boards and the schools and what have you, they got to experience taking away the toy. And their pursuit is to get back into that place where there was air quotes respect and validation of the profession. Whereas our generation, us millennials, are like, well, that sounds nice. Your Mercedes, cool. I haven't experienced that. So I don't really feel the need to come back to that. So it'll be very interesting as we start to take over, like what kind of differences, we're starting to see it. Like the stages are no longer like back when we graduated, the stages were all just different people, not different people, the same person. And now you see it. You see this diversity of gender, of thought, people talking about getting rid of the ego and like just calling light to some of the shame that's within chiropractic and just bringing up some subjects that are brand new to stages and podcasts and social media. And what kind of changes do you think we're going to see happen with the profession as millennials become more universal?
I think there's a danger of us becoming a little bit of a fairy society, if I'm honest. Like I'm
A
going to
fairy
just say
society.
it. I think there is a softness to it that's too soft, if I'm honest.
Oh, I love that.
I think if we really are to step up as a profession and really thrive, that validation first must come from within, and it must do. So instead of wanting insurance to validate what you do, instead of wanting your regulation to validate what you do, instead of wanting your patients to validate what you do, you need to validate what you do. I can't remember who said it, but I think it's brilliant. They said, "Would you listen to you? Would you take your advice?" And this is something that I ask a lot of times when I get on the stage and speak to people, like, would you take your advice? And it's gut wrenching, and we're in this society where we're not allowed to call like a lemon, like we just can't do it. Like it's a kind of offshade of something else that's kind of puts a sting in your mouth. I don't know. Like you just can't tell it how it is, and that really bugs me. And I worry that I think it's brilliant. You know what I think? The best trend that I see changing on the stages in chiropractic is the equal men and women. I love that. Because I remember when we first graduated, there may have been one female on the stage,
Mhm.
and that was extraordinary. So it's really nice to see that change. There's a lot of focus on really owning technique, which I think is good, but there needs to be a deeper certainty understanding of why behind that, and just being true to what we do and our principles, like being true.
What will that look like in the schools? Like, do you think that, because you said you see a softness, but like,
Mhm.
so okay, so there's kind of two softnesses. Um, so one is that feminine energy that is like showing up literally with a vagina, but also I think I think the poor millennial male, well, all males are looking to, you know, Gen X and going like, that seems not balanced. Like that
Mhm.
doesn't seem like, so I think we have a lot of millennial males going like embracing that feminine energy into work-life balance. Like the whole like I don't think women are the only ones pursuing work-life balance anymore. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Okay. So we have that softness where we're like, yay, that's good. But I don't think that's what you meant. When you said the word softness, were you meaning on
I
dis?
I think it's the antithesis of a leader. Like the antithesis of a leader. Like the softness is not leading by example. The softness is saying, "Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay." Like it's not okay.
Mhm.
Like it's not, and let's not get started on Gen X because
I love to talk about Gen Z more. I love Gen X and I'm like, yes, thank you so much. Are you done yet? I usually am more looking at like Gen Z behind us going like, do you guys know that like you do need to make more than $900 a month and you can't just live in a van forever? Like I love the idea, but isn't that what every generation is like looking and going like, whoa, you are taking yourself way too seriously. You need to
yeah.
like love life a little bit. But then the older generation going like, you need to work a little harder, just a little
Mm.
bit. But anyways, I
I think
digress.
it's true, and like we talked about discipline earlier. Like discipline is freedom. Like it is freedom. So I get up early. I've got my gym done. I feel like I'm ahead of the game. I've got some work done. And then after this podcast, now I have the entire evening with my family. I have a weekend free with my family. Like I've done the work. Like, and I now have the freedom. Whereas if you're not disciplined, you then have a perpetual guilt that you're behind in what you're doing. You're not achieving what you should do. You're not living up to the expectations. And I think if we can cultivate some more discipline, if people can fail their exams, if they could be taught how to truly adjust in the college, as well as be allowed to learn how to adjust outside, which is something they're not allowed to do here. If people could be taught true philosophy and like if they don't subscribe to it, then maybe they need to find another course. But really like be proud of what we do, like really own it. Yes, we do get great results, but
Mhm.
really own what chiropractic is at its essence. And that has the potential to really change the world.
Do you follow Jordan Peterson much?
I don't.
Okay,
I'm
you
intrigued. I've got a book on this, I think, but I've never read
so
it.
okay, so I looked up this quote. It's not from Jordan Peterson. So mind the like ADHD loop here. I will come back to it. So I looked it up because I knew I would mess it up. But the quote that's been going around a lot, or I've been seeing a lot, is hard times create
Oh, yeah.
strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. And so I've seen a lot of people talking about like, or I forget where like millennials are in that, but like we're basically going into bad times, but then the bad times will create the hard. So like basically our grandkids or our great grandkids will kind of like get back on this discipline loop. So that's that like theory. And I'm like, well, shit, so you mean it's not going to happen in like 3 years? Like, oh, we're talking decades. But, you talked about how we're in this era where you can't call a lemon a lemon. And I'm going to say the words, and I do want to say that I don't mean to be setting a landmine of a question for you. being a male to answer it, but like I think it's a really good conversation. And Jordan Peterson talks a lot about like the attack on males. That's like a lot about what he talks about. So we've kind of come in and been like, no, it's okay to not push yourself. Like that is contributing to burnout and adrenal fatigue. And like, it's okay to, listen to your body. And if you wake up one day and you don't feel like going to the gym, go inward and be like, maybe your body just needs rest. And like, I feel like if I had a completely different guest on, and we were talking about burnout, and I'm just going to say it, this guest who would be saying this is probably a female talking about how we've, just gotten so disconnected from this and we need to allow more of this softness. And I'm not talking feminine energy, that the good softness. I'm talking about, they would never say it's a lack of discipline, but like we've just been driving too hard. And then so we have that. And then we're like, no, masculine energy, whether you're coming from a male or a female, like that is toxic. You're toxic. Like the amount of times that we've labeled this over the last 4 years, really? I mean, it's been real hardcore over the last 4 years of labeling that energy, whether it's coming from a male or a female that has this toxic masculine energy. And now we're like, oh shit, we're kind of getting weak and soft. And we're like, and I don't know what we do with that. Like, what is the balance? Like, here's the question in your mind, what part of the male masculine energy actually is toxic and needs to be let go of? Because I see the feminine, like I already labeled like what part of the feminine needs to let go of. Like, yes, I do think we need to learn to go inward and listen to our body. What does our body need? Not what does our ego want? And I think that's what the feminine, or not ego, but like, what does our body want versus need? I think that's part of what we need to go like, oh, hold on. No. The question is what do I want? It's what do I need? So we need to let go of that part of feminine, but what's the toxic part of the masculine energy that we actually need to let go of? Because it's not discipline.
I did not see this going this way.
Sorry.
So
I told you. I
this is
don't.
brilliant.
I asked my guests like, "What do you want to talk about?" And then I'm like, "What do you order?"
Choose.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as toxic masculinity. There is no such thing as toxic masculinity. There are toxic men and there are masculine men. There is no such thing as toxic masculinity. And this is, put a tinfoil hat on, say it's a deliberate play, but men are meant to be masculine and women are meant to be feminine. And we're not even allowed to say that anymore. And that's just how it's meant to be. Women in groups come together, talk about things, discuss and have commune, and that's how they solve problems. And that's how they pause, they rest, they digest their information, and they learn. Men, when times are stressful, they take ownership, they go solo, and they lead. And that's just how we are. If you're in a relationship, man and woman relationship, you'll see this. You'll see when you're in times of stress, one of the biggest things that causes friction in couples is the fact that the woman wants to talk about the problem and the man wants to run away from the problem. And we never meet. And there needs to be a bit of both because we cohabit. But there needs to be an understanding of individuality and on what we truly are. Toxic men are men who do not make up their own mind, do not speak their own truth, do not live up to their full potential. A masculine man is someone who leads by example, sets a standard, and helps his community. And that's what a chiropractor should be. But on the flip of that, a feminine female is someone who cares for their community, loves on their community, and gives to their community. And we need that too. So the problem is this becomes such an emotive topic, especially over the last few years. It's completely insane that we then can't talk about it. It's the same as, vaccines. You can't even talk about vaccines because it's so emotive to people. And whoever's it be, have been so good at creating such emotion around these that we then just don't talk about. And then this little voice tells us what we should and should be doing. So I think what needs to happen is men need to regain their masculinity. And if I had to pinpoint that onto one thing, it'd be leadership. And leadership is an example. It doesn't mean you have to be the guy who lifts all the heavy weights in the gym. It doesn't mean you have to be the guy who works from 5 in the morning till 10 at night. You just have to lead the example of what you believe to be true and in your life, and take ownership and responsibility for what it is that you do.
So it can be different for every male,
Yeah.
their version of leadership.
Yeah.
Can it be different for every male chiropractor?
Yeah.
Or do you now, because you're a chiropractor, need to be a leader in health?
You need to be a leader in philosophy, science, and art of things natural.
So I think this is where I agree with everything you said, by the way, and go down the Jordan Peter. Like what you're saying is like exactly, what Jordan Peterson gets on stages and just gets so much hate for, but like also so much truth and wisdom. So my theory is why we see so many women burning out in chiropractic is because of the amount of masculine energy that is just required to run a business. You need to be a leader, and like you have to, and just the masculine energy is getting shit done. It's timelines, it's showing up, it's discipline. And if it's your name on the door, like you better do it. And so I think that that's where the struggle is. And I know we're not allowed to talk like, we can do anything. We can have it all. Oh my gosh. I saw a clip. Do you know who Michelle Wolf is? She's a comedian, got a
Yes,
really
yeah,
high
yeah.
pitched voice. I saw this clip where she was talking about how she doesn't want to have kids and she wants a career, and how society is just like, you can have it all. And she goes, who said having it all is a good thing? Have you ever gone to an all you can eat buffet and felt good about yourself afterwards? And I was like, that's really funny, because that's what women have been told for a very short amount of time. Honestly, like my mother-in-law and I got into a conversation because she was like the bra burning, like we fought for women's rights. And now I'm like, I know, but it's kind of exhausting to have it all.
Yeah, and but I think like our generation, like the millennials, are guilty of bringing this entrepreneurial hustle culture, which has probably created some of that. And humans are pack animals. We're meant to work as a community, so you can have it all so long as you have a good community around you and you work with that. A lot of chiropractors are not willing to invest in getting the right people around them to help them grow.
Mhm.
Uh, whether that's CA, whether that's back office staff, whether that's a coach, like an accountant, like people are just you need to build that team if you really are going to thrive and grow and stay in your lane of genius. It's true. Like my office wouldn't run if I didn't have someone to help do the back end stuff, because my lane of genius is not taking admin tasks to the completion.
Mhm.
But you need to create that team around you, and you can have what you want, which essentially is you can have it all, but you have to define your all and how you're going to get there.
Mhm. And I completely agree of like, you can with community. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we kind of are not that far from generations where like the grandmother, I guess I should say, lived with the family,
Yeah,
where, took
yeah.
care of, helped with cleaning and cooking and having babies, or not having babies. Grandma, you're done having babies. But
Please
caring for
stop.
the right, please stop having. But like the idea of community, of like, yes, community in chiropractic, like
Mm.
maybe you are at a period in your life where being an associate and having the community within the office is what you need. Maybe if you're, or if you are in that phase where you're going and opening your practice, like not doing it alone, investing in having someone, a mentor that you can turn to, but like also everywhere else in life of like,
Yeah, I think you know what I think that when you say that, like a lot of chiropractors would be a lot more successful if they chose to just be associates, like good associates.
agreed. I'm
Like,
hoping that this is going to rectify itself. I think millennials fucked
yeah,
this up. I'm
yeah.
raising the hand and saying we did this. We said like we carried that chip on our shoulder that like, why would you go to chiropractic school to work for someone else? Like I didn't necessarily sign up to
No.
be a small business owner.
And not everyone's like, and the more people I coach, and I coach in business inside and outside of chiropractic, like there are a lot of people who want to be, but they're just not. It's just not them. It's not their
Mhm.
genius. It's not their genius, and they're going to keep struggling and struggling and struggling. Whereas they'd be far better off being an associate or joining a like a franchise, a good
Mhm.
franchise, not a shit one.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But then we have to, us business owners have to start taking care of them.
Yeah, and I'm here
Like,
if anybody wants that.
right. Me too. Would you like? Both of
You're
us
looking
will
for a good
take care of
franchise
you.
opportunity.
Yes.
But it's true, like and yeah, and again, that's ego. That's ego.
Oh, say more. What do you mean?
Wanting to have your own thing.
Oh, yes. I thought you were talking about from like the owner not taking care of associates, but yes, needing your
Yeah,
own thing.
but that's also true. That's also true. Like one of the reasons people don't associate is because they go into awful associate positions where the person running the business has the ego, sees
Mhm.
themselves as better as the people working for them, and I would choose to use the words working with, and that lack of respect, that lack of understanding, because this guy's got an ego, they move on.
Mhm.
Richard Branson, I love the saying. He says train people as so well that they can leave, but treat them so well that they want to stay. And I think that's what we do with everyone in our businesses is to try and do that for them.
Yeah, I think that you know, there are so many so if we think like just within chiropractic, when you start talking about like freedom and wealth and like I feel like those conversations have really been gate kept
If I could
gatekept.
have a half-hour conversation with an associate, I will show them how they can have way more wealth and way more freedom than someone who owns their own practice.
Will
Like
you
it
say more on that? Because like that's definitely a topic that like
because they take home so much. Well, I don't know about where you are, but like, their potential to take home coin is huge. And if they were wise with how they took it home and how they invested it,
Mhm.
then they would be in such so without any responsibility, they could run a
Mhm.
practice, like they could work with their patients and they could take home a huge chunk of money. If they're sensible, I don't know, there's slightly different taxings over there, but if they set themselves up as an independent business, they could take that money, they pay themselves minimum salary, dividends, expenses, set up a sub company, reinvest into whatever they choose to do, whether it be property, whether into crypto, whatever. And they could
Mhm.
set up these streams of income coming off that and literally have no responsibility.
Yeah. I think we have glorified being the CEO. Like
Yeah.
if you have there's such a small percentage of people that Stephen Franson talks about like it's like somewhere between 4 to 8%. I forget what he quoted actually enjoys the beating that is running a business and they're insane because then they go and start multiple right like it's like oh and it's always funny because like we have I don't know it's either four or five um businesses and it always seems like well, I don't know what the moon is doing or whatever, but they all like decide to have their shit week on the same week. And you're
Don't they?
like,
Don't they
right.
just?
Yeah. You're like, oh, okay. Of course the bank called about that. And of course that short-term rental needs that. Oh, mhm. Oh, and your office manager quit. Okay. Awesome.
Mm.
Awesome. Awesome. But we just keep doing it. And I think it's so glorified and it's the ego and the validation of like just seeking of like okay am I a real chiropractor, am I a real chiropractor because a real chiropractor owns their own, and it's like no, can we stop saying that, like we gotta
It's
stop.
very different. If you truly run a business and you run it effectively, you don't get a day off. You don't get a holiday. Like
Mhm,
you work every day, and it takes a certain kind of person who actually enjoys that.
mhm,
Like I love it. People say to me, "Why don't you take a break? And why don't you just like?" My wife is a true businesswoman as well, like myself, uh, and we have a 9-week-old baby, and everyone's like, "Just take it easy, relax." It's like my form of relaxing is working. Like it's different. I heard Alex Hormozy, who was interviewed, and like, "What do you like to do in your spare time?" He's like, I like business. I like to do business. So me and my wife, we do business. That's like me and Sarah. But it takes a certain kind of person. Whereas this whole, and you talked about balance earlier, this idea that we want to create this amazing work-life balance, and it doesn't actually exist. Like you choose what you want to do.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you're in that perpetual frustration or anxiety that this isn't working, or I'm not over there, and when I'm here, and it just builds up and up and up. So that you're right, there are very few people who really are cut out to do it.
Do you think it's
And
unfair that so people like us crazy assholes over here, we put out this message of like, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, and like half of the battle is showing up, like, all those like, yeah, go get them. And let's just say that 8%, we'll go with the higher, it's a 8% of the population actually, this is their work life balance of like, yes, I fly first class and I drink champagne while sending emails because that's awesome. I get so much work done. And so we're like out there on stages and on social media and like being like, this is success. This is what I'm doing. Or I shouldn't say success because that's like, but and then we've got 92% of the population looking and thinking that that's the what they're supposed to do.
yeah, I
But
mean,
it doesn't fit. It's like a square peg in a round hole.
yeah, and it's not this fantasy that people see. It's not like, maybe there are some people who've got that fantasy, but it's not true. Like my wife always says, Sarah always says to me, like, you should just be a little bit more real on your social media, because I tend to put up like the highlight stuff and the gym. That's
Mhm.
pretty much all I put up. But like, I'll fly to the States on Wednesday, back on Monday. I won't see my family. The next weekend, I'm away again. The following weekend, I'm away again. You know, I just changed my hours, but it's 14-hour day. Sophie's not up, like my daughter's not up for 14 hours in a day, so I don't see her. And it's hard because part of society tells me I should be the other way and should be doing other things, but that's not who I am.
Mhm.
But it's like, yes, you can taste the finer things if you work harder, I believe, but define your fine. Like, is the finer things in life just getting a chippy takeout and sitting in a field and just chilling out?
Mhm.
That's not what I enjoy, but it might be for some
I mean,
people.
that sounds amazing also, but like
Or is it like working hard, enjoying a fantastic holiday because you are still doing some work? Like, it's just I just think I suppose there's a lot of highlighting the best things in people's lives. There's comparison, there's not owning or knowing yourself, fear of not having what other people have. And it just, again, it comes back
Mhm.
down to like
Fear
really,
of not having what other people have.
yeah.
That is that's a different spin on FOMO that I've never heard and is like, "Oh, that just like hit me
Mm.
right in the chest when you said that." I feel that it does come back to ego though for we're just going to keep using this false stat of 92% of people. Cuz I pulled it out of my ass. I have a memory of
Oh,
somebody saying a number once. Um, but so, okay, so we have this chiropractor who went to school, they're in practice. They started a business and they're like, this isn't this isn't what I thought it was. I didn't think I thought I would like this and I don't. Why don't we have well, okay, I know why we don't. It's ego. So how do we ease the path? What's your recommendation for someone to ease the path through their ego back into associating? Or shit, if they're like, I don't like what your this chiropractic, I want to go give injections and antibiotic like either way, there's a large ego that has to overcome because you're like you chase the mountaintop that society told you would make you happy, and that's what being a true chiropractor, a true entrepreneur, true success and freedom will come when you get here and you're there and you hate it, but you're too afraid or embarrassed to because in your mind you see it as a step backwards or a setback. So how do you if you were coaching someone, what would your advice be to ease the path, like, when they come to that realization?
what the first thing I do when I'm coaching someone is work out their values, and we spend some time working out the values. The values exercise that I take people through is not like I'm honorable or I'm trustworthy. It's like, it's what do you enjoy doing? What do you spend your time doing? Where are you investing your resources? And you figure out really what drives people. And if people can become self-aware of that first and know that that's actually who they are at their core, then you can start to say, well, let's move towards that. Within that, you then need to figure out what your gift is. And your gift is your vehicle of how you bring your values to the world. And it may be a chiropractor, it may be a conversationalist. And then the glue that sticks the two together is integrity and personal integrity. And that's where the work needs to be done. So most of us have a level of integrity. You and I decided to be on this call at 8:15 your time, 2:15 my time, and we agreed on it. And because of our level of integrity, we both showed up at that meeting on time. But a lot of people do that, but then for themselves, they put their trainers out in the morning and say to themselves, I'm going to get up at 6 o'clock and run. And they get up at 6:30 and they don't run. Or they say to themselves, I'm going to tell the truth to my patients today, and they don't. Or they tell themselves, I'm going to eat well this week, and they choose not to. And we lack self-integrity. And it's about learning to cultivate that. So keeping the little promises to yourself over a period of time where you start to grow and build your own level of integrity, your own level of certainty, then you become more self-assured. And once you become more self-assured and you set these standards and you hold this integrity to yourself, you then have the confidence to move into whatever it is that you choose to do. But unless you can sit there and say, I own who I am, you're always going to worry about what others think.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So I think that's a good place to ask my last question, which is like, so how does someone, you talk about how you coach, like, are you accepting people? Like, how does someone get more of you in their life, Tom?
So the easiest way is to find me on socials at Dr. Tom Waller. And
And he's
most
going to start sharing the lows also
I'm
on
so
his
sharing
social.
lows. Come and watch my woes. So at Dr. Tom Waller on Instagram is where most of it is. I'm a co-host on an incredible podcast called the Aligned Podcast, which is growing rapidly, and that's a blend of entrepreneurial and entrepreneurship with chiropractic, which is brilliant. Me and Lee, and then I have a website which is ascchiro.com. I have a group mentorship. We call them the certain ones, but I also for a few people I do one-on-one coaching, and that's where I am. If I provide value, people come and see me. If I don't, they carry on being a
Carry
fairy.
on. Carry on. Oh, well, thank you so much for your time. I
Thank you.
know you're extremely busy and I appreciate it. And yeah, I'll have those links and stuff, and people go follow Tom and listen to the podcast and get more disciplined. So
I really appreciate what you do, Lauren, and we'll get you on our show as well. I'd love to have you on our show.
sounds good. Am I allowed to swear on it?
Yeah, I swear
Okay.
more on there than I did here. So,
Well,
yeah.
I was kind of disappointed. I didn't want to like embarrass you or anything, but like I was promised that Brits swear. I watch enough reality TV to know, and you were very disciplined and didn't
No, we
swear.
don't. We toast with jam and marmalade, and we drink cups of tea with the Queen, and that's all we ever do.
You're a bunch of sassy folk. All right, Cheese Slayers. Thanks for joining us, Tom. And until next week, bye.